Hello, everyone, and welcome to the One Love Wellbeing and Lifestyle Show. My name is Dr. Peter Amato, and I'm here today with my co-host, the beautiful Uptown Julia Brown, all the way from the friendly island of St. Martin in the Caribbean.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, actually. Truly a pleasure.
Awesome. We have an amazing show today. We have a special guest who is internationally acclaimed and an expert in the field. First of all, he's a doctor, he's a natural medicine doctor, and he's also a chiropractic physician, okay? And he's the author of 19 books on health, translated into 12 languages, and additionally, he's lectured in over 30 countries around the world. Today he's going to talk about one of the most richest phytonutrients on the planet. It's called Moringa, and we have a very exciting talk planned for you today. Welcome to the show. We'll be right back with Dr. Howard Fisher.
Welcome back to the One Love Wellbeing and Lifestyle Show, and we'll be filming here in beautiful Pennsylvania at the Harmony Mountain Institute for Living. Welcome back, Dr. Fisher, to her program. Great to have you.
Thanks, Julia. Pleasure to be here.
And our host, Dr. Peter Amato.
Hello, everyone. Okay, everyone, so we have Dr. Fisher with us today, and he's going to talk to us about one of the most amazing phytonutrients on the planet. It's called Moringa. Now, we have had Dr. Fisher on the island of St. Martin. Many of you may have met him before or heard him talk about Moringa, and we all know that on the friendly island, many of you have that sacred plant in your yards or have utilized it over time with your families and friends. For generations even, as I'm told in my practice. So Dr. Fisher, could you please talk to us a little bit about this sacred plant, please?
Thanks, Dr. Mato. Basically, when I was in St. Martin, these plants are being grown. They're not being grown and tended so carefully because people don't really understand the value of them. And yes, it's been around for a long time. Actually, the history of Moringa oleifera goes back to the Tree of Immortality and Egyptian hieroglyphics, and you can see it there. And then in Africa, for years, in Senegal, they're using this 50, 60 years ago for malnutrition, and malnutrition is a horrible thing where 1 out of every 5 African children, sub-Saharan African children, die before the age of 5. And what they're doing for kwashiorkor, or protein malnutrition, as you know, is giving them 3 teaspoons a day of dried leaves. And the big pharmaceutical companies, they wanted to try and make this into something else, but were unable to. And yes, it's in the yards of everybody. Everybody in the Caribbean will be having this plant, but they don't understand how precious it is. It is the most phytonutrient-dense plant on the planet, with over 90 nutrients, phytonutrients, all bioavailable if you don't cook it, if you know what to do with it. So yes, this is a historical plant that everyone has, but you have to take care of the plant and you have to know how to use it.
That's amazing. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, we'll be showing some slides during our show so you can get a look, because you might have seen it but don't know exactly what it is, Moringa oleifera. Now, Julia, I've heard many folks on St. Martin who use this particular plant in different ways. Some take the pod, some take the little peas in it, some boil it up.
Make it a tea. Tea, for instance. I, for instance, use it as tea, which is quite effective. Or I make it and drink it as water, just to refresh me throughout the day. But I was told you cannot use too much of it. There is a limit to it. So, Dr. Fisher, tell us more about the usage of it, more or less.
There's different parts of the plant. Obviously, there's leaves, which
Yes.
are sold everywhere in the world now, very effective. There's fruit, the fruit pod. There's the seed cake. There are the roots and there are the bark. If you're taking the bark or the roots, yes, there can be too much. If you're taking the leaves or the seed cake or the fruit, it's highly unlikely that you're able to consume too much. The reality is that that's a wives' tale. And the reality of, it'll give you a miscarriage if you're pregnant, that's only from the bark, and there are papers on that. So the reality is it's completely safe if you're consuming leaves, seed cake, and fruit.
That's very, very good to know because I was following the wives' tale on this. So I hope he wasn't doing the same thing because I know you sell it by in a Harmony clinic. You have the various forms that you have the Moringa in. Could you just share with us also a little bit about the different format that you are having it in?
Well, absolutely. And Dr. Fisher here is the expert, and I'd like him to talk about it a little more because we wanted to maybe talk to the people about the difference between the local Moringa and where else in the world Moringa comes from, because our Moringa comes from a special place on the planet that Dr. Fisher talks about, and we want to learn the reason why, how many species there are, how many varieties there are, and why this particular place in the world does Inner Harmony and many other places use this type of plant.
Excellent point, Dr. Romano. There are 13 species known right now of Moringa on the planet, all beneficial. There are 61, 62, the varietals change as the wind blows, literally, about 61 varietals. So let's talk about the second most potent varietal. That's called Malunggay. It comes out of the Philippines. It's about 30%. It's about 30% as potent as the Tamil Nadu variety that we have at the clinic. And that in itself is something very special. Now, I'd like to get back to why this is different right after we get back.
All right, we'll be back in 1 minute, and we're going to talk about what he calls the miracle tree. Be right back, everyone. Okay, everyone, we're back with Dr. Howard Fisher on Moringa. Dr. Fisher, let's talk a little more about the different species and varieties and the differences and benefits.
Thanks, Dr. Matto. Basically, we're talking about the fact that there's 61 different varietals. There's one particular varietal that has, when you do a phytonutrient assay, has more. It's more potent than all the others, and that's one we're going to deal with. And not only that, there are people who are offering Moringa. I know of a study that was done where someone bought 20 Moringas out of a health food store, and 16 of them either had trace or no Moringa at all. Wow. Now let's examine what we can do. If you have a tree, and there's trees everywhere, if you buzzed your tree down, you threw it in a dryer, you put it in a bag and called it Moringa, you don't really know what you have. So the varietal that you have in the clinic and that I recommend all the time is hand-picked. They pick the leaves. They pick the fruit. They separate the seed cake separately, all shade-dried. Why? Because the sun is bright. The sun can kill phytonutrients. It can deactivate the vitamins. It can cause the enzymes to denature. So we want to make sure it's shade-dried, and then it's shipped to a facility in the United States for assembling at a pharmaceutical grade. And that's how we know what we're getting is extremely active. So it's the right varietal. It's shade-dried. It's the most potent. And it's not just the leaves. It's the leaves, the seed cake, and the fruit pod. And that impact is what's making this extremely potent.
Wow.
We're in awe, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Wow. So this plant is really called a miracle plant.
This is a miracle tree, yes. The miracle tree, the tree of immortality, the tree from which 1,000 diseases must flee. There's over 300 names for this tree because it grows in all the countries within 700 miles north to south of the equator. And there are varying degrees of potency, and that's why you have to do a phytonutrient assay. Okay. You have to know what's in your plant to make sure that it functions at the highest capacity, to make sure that it can perform the miracles. If you start to look at PubMed.gov, you'll see over 500 papers about what Moringa oleifera does. When I started writing my first book, about 2007 on Moringa, I have 3 books on Moringa oleifera. When I started writing my first book, there was very few, there were still 500 papers, but they weren't so prevalent. Now, everybody is looking into it because it's performing miracles. Its primary function is to go after your liver. It's hepatoprotective. And what we've seen disappear with this is rather amazing. We should call it a pharmaceutical because it's so effective, but we don't. We just call it the miracle tree.
Okay, but do you know some of the vitamins and minerals that it contains? You could just...
No.
No,
I know
it's
them
too
all.
much.
And that would be like reciting a grocery list. So let me give you a little story to that.
Yes.
So a friend of mine in Norway had the list of over 90.
Different.
Yes.
Wow.
Basically everything is here. So he took the list. He went with a shopping cart in a health food store. He filled the shopping cart. He was a third of the way through the list. The equivalent was about $1,000 that he had in the cart. He was a third of the way through the list. Basically, it's got everything you need. It's not a supplement. It's a food. It's a whole food. It's a total food.
Wow.
I read one study, folks, where it cited that there's over 44 different antioxidants.
Over 44 would be 46, as I've seen, and I've seen some references now to 47 because they're discovering it all the time. And antioxidants, they're the key. They're the key to aging.
Yep.
Right. And over 90 nutrients in total.
Over 90 nutrients, over 500 different physiological function benefits.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow. Then taking this plant, you should not be sick, period. You should not be sick taking this plant in whatever format. I'm just saying.
Well, understand that the environment is extremely toxic. Our environments are toxic no matter where we are. There's toxicity in the air, there's toxicity in the food we eat, there's toxicity in the water we drink. So, yes, will it help with that? Absolutely. Does it stimulate every system in the body? Absolutely. Is it wonderful for you? Yes, it is.
The health benefits, the type of diseases or illnesses or abnormalities in people, what have you seen and what does it help?
It basically, if we look at the immune system as a starting point, why are most people getting ill? Most people are getting ill because the immune system is letting them down. 98% of the population has a deficient immune system.
98.
98 in terms of natural killer cells. So 98% of the population has that deficiency. So if we're looking at that, I mean, just for that benefit alone, that would be all we really need. However, you're nothing but a physiological factory. And a physiological factory is everything in your body, whether it's neurotransmitters, immunoglobulins, everything in your body is something that your body has to make. So what do we make this out of? Amino acids. So we make it out of amino acids, and every amino acid you could possibly need, not the 8 essential and histidine, which is essential for children, all the amino acids are present in this plant. So that being the case, I think this is something, if it's not there for the factory, so let's look at humans. And humans are basically, we're factories. So what do we need? We need energy. Okay, well the plant will give you energy, right? We need raw materials. Okay, these are all the raw materials. And in fact, we need to be able to have our organs in good shape. Well, we have antioxidants and anti-inflammatories, and that will do it.
Wow.
Makes me feel like I want to get a cup of Moringa right now.
Right. The energy it provides in totality, based on all of the ingredients, sound very profound.
You know what? And that's why we're doing this show on it.
People need to know.
They do. And maybe we should discuss more when we come back.
I think so. All right, folks. We'll be right back with Dr. Howard Fisher to learn more about the benefits of Moringa.
Welcome to the One Love, Wellbeing and Lifestyle Show. And we're here with Dr. Fisher and my host, Dr. Amano. We left off the last segment, very interesting, about the health benefit. It's this miracle Moringa tree. Now, with our population as we're aging, we can't help that per se because every second we're aging. Tell us some of the benefits of the plant as we age.
Well, let's really discuss what aging is, Julia.
Yes.
So yesterday I happened to be in a store, and there was a fellow there who's a greeter. And I was talking about something, and he goes, "Oh, you wouldn't know that. You're much too young." I go, "I bet you we're the same age."
Ouch.
And when he told me his age, at 67, I said, yeah, we're the same age.
Oh my
And so the reality is, there is a science behind anti-aging medicine, and this is my discipline. And so why did I choose Moringa oleifera? Because everyone wants to live as long as they can in a health status that is the best that they can possibly have. This reality has led to, well, what is the cause of aging? How do we age? Well, all the cells in our body reproduce all the time. They have to make new cells. Some it's in a hurry, then in the busy areas, and some it takes 7 years to reproduce. So every time a cell reproduces, the telomeres, these are the caps on the end of a chromosome, they shorten. And so as they shorten, eventually they'll get shorter and shorter and shorter. However, our environment can provide some negative influences in this case. There's something called telomerase that protects them. It's so important that in 2009, they gave the Nobel Prize to Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn for this. So this is really important. So it seems that antioxidants protect telomerase and protect the telomeres. So if your telomeres don't shorten, they can continue to make a perfect cell and a perfect cell and a perfect cell. And because when the telomeres get too short, then they stop to reproduce the cell. And when they stop to reproduce that cell, we call that aging, because you can't replace with an exact cell anymore. Yeah. So this being the case, that's just one aspect. You know how people get, tired when they get older, or seem to?
Yeah.
Well, there's something called mitochondria. Mitochondria are these oval-shaped organelles in every cell that provide energy. They make ATP, adenosine triphosphate. They provide energy for the entire body. But as we get older, they get bigger, less effective. That leads to increased serum glucose, because that's what they're burning. And they get less in number. So they're larger, less effective, less in number. There's a profile of the nutrients in Moringa oleifera, the polyphenols and the antioxidants. You see, when they make energy, they create free radicals. Free radicals are the damaging elements.
Yes.
So when they create free radicals and we give them antioxidants, well, then the mitochondria don't get damaged. And when we give them polyphenols, they don't get affected. As a matter of fact, they get more resilient. So this being the case, we can give ourselves more energy, less serum glucose, just by taking a plant in our bodies as if it's a whole food. It's a complete food. Now, and that's not it. They say that 80% of all chronic diseases, and there's 700 million chronic diseases in the U.S. with a population of 328 million. There's 700 million, so we're doing something wrong. It's probably dietarily related. So we're doing something very wrong. Well, they say that 80% of all chronic disease is due to inflammation. Well, there are 36 different phytonutrient anti-inflammatories in Moringa oleifera. So merely by incorporating this as part of your diet, it's significantly anti-aging, and anti-aging in a manner that you'll have less disease overall. So it doesn't matter, speaking specifically, because your body has to be in a position to direct it.
Fascinating.
Wow.
And as we age, we know something that occurs as part of the aging process. It's called cell death. It doesn't sound too nice, but it's just part of the process. We end up getting what's called biofilms over the cells. They kind of glaze over and harden, if you will. So what Dr. Fisher is talking about regarding the telomeres and the mitochondria actually becoming more saturable, the ability for the moringa to actually help with that cell regarding infections, chronic infections. Is there a relationship there between the benefits of the moringa and infections, chronic infections?
Absolutely there is. What we find is, and there's been a number of studies with autoimmune diseases. When I was going through school the first time, as you know, I'm old, so there was 2 autoimmune diseases, type 1 diabetes and rheumatoid arthritis, where, the hands look like that. And now there are, I think the last time I actually counted, there was about 139.
Wow.
But there may be more. So this is where the body is attacking itself.
Autoimmune.
Right, autoimmune. So what we have found is that there seems to be with Moringa oleifera, people who use it, there seems to be an immunomodulation effect. And this immunomodulation effect is one where the body seems to sort itself out and attack non-self and doesn't attack self. And this is an extreme benefit. And yes, so immune function improved.
Amazing. How about hormonally as we age, Doc?
Raw materials. What's the status of your organs, the status of the raw materials going in.
Huh. And finally, detoxification possibilities?
Everything with magnesium will detoxify. Everything will detoxify with magnesium in it. Every green plant. The body accepts magnesium. Magnesium's the top of the reactivity series.
Wow.
And it starts to kick out heavy metals and a lot of other things. Everyone taking Moringa oleifera will have a detox reaction at some point.
Wow, I'm so impressed right now at this particular miracle plant tree. I'm totally impressed, and your knowledge of it, and thank you for researching it and bringing out the information so the audience can know more about this plant. Thank you so much. But before we close, normally we'd ask you to look in the cameras, I think this one, and just share with the audience something positive, something awesome that will help them, either in the aging process or something.
My pleasure.
Sure.
You are in control of your life. You may not believe you are, but through positive mental attitude, through meditation, through proper diet, you can have a long and healthy life.
Well said.
Well said.
Thank you.
Dr. Fisher, thank you very much for joining us today. The show has been amazing. Miss Julia Brown. Folks, one love. Here we are, over and out. See you next time. Keep the faith. Okay, bye-bye.